agenda. And the next topic that we have is the blob illustration. So I'm going to use Muscle Man. I gave you that illustration of Muscle Man. So I'm going to go over to my files. I'm going to download it, and I'm going to create a little folder for myself for the in-class exercise. And I'm going to put the image in that folder, and I'm going to make a file, and I'm going to organize everything in that new file and folder structure. Okay, so let me go over to my module. I'm going to go and find Muscle Man. So here's Muscle Man, and I'm going to click on the JPEG. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, whenever you download something on a Mac, it usually dumps it into the download folder. So that's what I'm opening up right now. It's the download folder. See, there it is, download folder. And I'm looking at this organized by added dates. So you'll notice that it's showing today. And I'm going to drag this image outside of the download folder onto the desktop. And I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop for what I'm about to practice. So I'm going to right click on my desktop. See, I'm right clicking on it. And I can make a new folder right there. If the name field is highlighted in blue, which it is, I can call this Muscle Man Blob. Muscle Man Blob. And I'm going to drag the Muscle Man image into this folder or directory. All right, so it's ready to be used. All right, so I'm going to launch Illustrator again. And I'm going to close this file. I'm going to make a new one from scratch just for the sake of example. All right, file new. I'm going to go ahead and create that 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to place that Muscle Man illustration, or template, excuse me. It's not an illustration yet. So let me find it. Muscle Man. Select the JPEG. Go ahead and hit place. So there he is. Okay, I'm going to scale it up a little bit just so I can see it a little bit better on our screen. He's a lovely character. All right, so I'm looking at my layer panel, and I want to prepare this correctly to use as a blueprint. What do I need to do? Can anybody give me some guidance? What do I need to do? Go for it.
You're going to double click next to where it says layer 1.
Double click next to where it says layer 1.
And then you're going to press template.
Press template.
And then dim image.
Why do I want to do this? Why do I not want it dimmed? Does anybody tell me why I would not want to dim it?
Just so you can see its actual color.
Well, exactly. I want to see its actual colors. If I ever need to sample the color from the reference image, if it's dimmed, it's incorrect. So I'm going to make sure that it's not dimmed, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. What should I name the layer?
Reference image.
Reference image. Ooh, you guys are good. All right, so reference image. And I'm going to make sure that it's locked. So that way, as I'm drawing, I'm not accidentally selecting it. It's going to be locked. I'm not accidentally selecting it. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer here. And this layer, I'm going to call it my trap layer. My trap layer. So T-R-A-P. T-R-A-P. Okay, so let's check this out. So cartoons... Do you guys remember when we had our conversation on the board where we talked about CMYK and RGB? Do you guys remember that conversation? What does the K stand for in CMYK?
Keystone?
Close.
Sorry,
Key line. It's black. It represents black, but it really means key line. And I explained that a key line is used also, besides a letter, in the old wood lead press, it also was used for something else. You remember what that other thing, the black, was used for? For trapping color in an illustration, or trapping color in what's called an illuminated letter. So a cartoon is the same idea. If you look at cartoons, they usually have a black line around them, usually. If it does, that black line is acting as a trap. And it's an edge that traps the color. That's the best way to describe it. So this first layer that I'm creating, you'll notice that I'm calling it my trap layer. Now, because this is black, when I make my trap layer, this first trap layer, I'm going to make it in a different color, then I'll change it to black later. Does that sound fair? So I want to be able to see my line versus the original line. So I'm going to set my fill color to red. I think it's the fill color. Let's see. All right, so the feature that we're going to look at is found in the creation area. So it's a creation tool. And it should be nested under the paintbrush. So we have a paintbrush and we have something called a blob brush. A paintbrush and a blob brush. Okay, so I want to draw something with this paintbrush. Right, let me put red on the brush. Okay. And I'm going to make this paintbrush really thick. I'm going to make it 10 points. So it's going to be a real thick line. Right, so when I draw with a paintbrush, there's the line that the paintbrush made. Okay, and I'm going to go to my blob brush. Okay, so here's my blob brush. If you double click on the blob brush, you get the, oops, that's the wrong tool, sorry guys. Double click on the blob brush. It looks just like the eraser tool. You'll notice that I have a size option. Okay, so I'm going to make this also 10 points. Okay, so I'm going to increase my first line to look a little bit closer in size to the second one. Okay, so this one I drew with the paintbrush. This one I drew with the blob brush. This one I drew with the paintbrush. This one I drew with the blob brush. I'm going to zoom into this so you can see it more clearly. And since I painted with red, I'm going to change my edge color to a different color. Okay. So check this out. When I hover over the first one, this is what the edge looks like. This was drawn with a paintbrush. When I hover over the second object, this is what the edge looks like. This was drawn with the blob brush. Do you see the difference? What is the difference? This line right here, we would call this what type of path? Open. So the paintbrush draws open paths. The blob brush draws what type of paths? Closed. So they're different. They're different. Let me hit Command Y. So you can see when I go to Command Y, here's the paintbrush. It's an open path. The blob brush draws a closed path. So they are different. Okay? So I wanted to share both of those brushes. So that way you have a context. What's the difference? The difference is the paintbrush is open, the blob brush is closed. Okay, I'm going to go back to the blob brush, and I'm going to draw a spot. I'm going to make a spot here with the blob brush. When I let go, look at the edge. Where's the edge? You'll notice that the edge is capturing all of the area that I drew with that blob brush. I kept it closed, right? So check this out. I'm going to select this shape. I'm going to go back to the blob brush, and I'm going to draw a little spider. Okay? Look what happened with the shapes. Did it separate them into separate pieces? Did it keep it separate pieces? Or did it merge them all together as one? It merged them. So the blob brush is an additive or subtractive tool, or neither? What is it? It's an additive tool. So when I illustrate with it, I can anticipate that it will add to my shapes. It works almost like the Pathfinder, but it's interactive. It's a brush that's working like the Pathfinder. Okay, so if I wanted to use a subtractive tool on this interactively, I could go to my eraser. Here's my eraser tool, and I could erase out two little eyes, right? So if I work with the blob and the eraser tool, it's sort of an interactive, additive, and subtractive tool. Does that make sense? Okay, so today's exercise that we're going to do in class is going to take advantage of some of the additive features that the blob brush has. That's really the purpose of today's conversation, is just to see the benefits of possibly working with the blob brush.